All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever looked at a super professional invoice or a purchase order that came out of an SAP system and wondered, how do they actually make those? Well, today we're going to break down the exact blueprint for building your very first Adobe form, step by step. So, first things first, what are we even talking about? Adobe Forms are basically SAP's heavy hitter tool for creating those pixel-perfect, professional-looking PDFs. Think about it. Anytime a business needs to send out an invoice, generate a salary slip, or create a purchase order, chances are an Adobe Form is working its magic behind the scenes, turning a bunch of raw system data into a clean, readable document. Okay, so they're everywhere, they're absolutely essential, and let's be honest, they can seem kind of complex from the outside. So that leads us to the big question, right? How in the world do you actually build one from the ground up? Let's get into it. So here's our game plan. We're going to start by explaining what an Adobe Form really is. Then we'll build our data blueprint. After that, we'll get into the fun part, designing the visual layout. Then we'll cover the program that actually puts it all together. And finally, we'll wrap up with some final checks and key takeaways. All right, let's kick things off with the absolute fundamentals. The secret to really getting a handle on Adobe Forms is just knowing one thing. Every single one is built from three core pieces. Once you see how these three components talk to each other, the whole process just clicks. To make this super simple, let's think about it like we're building a bridge. First up, you've got the interface. That's your engineering blueprint. It spells out every single piece of data you're going to need. Next is the form layout. That's the architectural design. It's all about how the final PDF is going to look. And finally, you have the ABAP program. That's your construction crew. It's the actual code that takes the blueprint and the design and builds the final bridge. Okay, time to get our hands dirty with our first practical step, creating that data blueprint. We do this inside SAP using a little shortcut, a transaction code called SFP. What we're really doing here is laying the foundation. We're basically creating a contract that says, hey, for this form to work, this is the exact data I need. And the process itself is actually pretty straightforward. First, you just create the interface object itself. Then you define what are called your import parameters. You could think of these as the main gates for your data to come through. And finally, you add the specific structures in tables that are going to hold all the details, like the customer's name and address or a list of order items. All right, our blueprint is solid. Now for the really creative part, designing the visual layout. This is where we stop talking about abstract data and start building the actual document that a real person is going to look at. Now, the absolute key concept here, the thing that makes it all work, is called data binding. It's simple, really. Over on the left, you have all your raw data from that interface we built, things like a customer name, an address, a list of products. On the right, you have the visual pieces on your form, like text fields and tables. Binding is the magic that connects the two. It tells the form, see this box, I want you to display the customer's name right here. And you'll see the actual process is super intuitive. First, you create your Adobe Form object, and you immediately link it to the interface we just made. That pops open a tool called Adobe LiveCycle Designer. From there, it's literally a drag and drop deal. You just drag your data fields from a list on one side and drop them onto your design canvas on the other. That simple action automatically creates the binding for you. Okay, so we've got the blueprint with all our data, and we've got the pretty architectural design. What's missing? The construction crew, right? Well, that brings us to the final major piece, the ABAP driver program. This is the code that's going to take our plan and actually build the final PDF. I know what you might be thinking. Oh no, code. But trust me, for a basic Adobe form, the program logic boils down to just 3 core actions. That's it. You open a job, you call your form, and then you close the job. It's this beautiful, simple, and logical sequence. First up, you call a special function module named fpJobOpen. All this does is tell the SAP system, hey, get ready, a request to generate a PDF is about to come your way. It just prepares the whole environment for the main event. And this is the main event. See, when you activated your Adobe form earlier, SAP was smart and automatically generated a unique function module just for it. So right here, all you do is call that specific function, and you pass in all the data that your form's interface was expecting. This is the exact moment that the data officially meets the layout. And finally, to wrap it all up, you call fpjob_close. This command is basically you telling the system, okay, we're all done here. It takes the result from the last step, finalizes the whole PDF generation process, and then spits out the finished document. Open, call, close. It's as simple as that. And just like that, we've walked through the entire build process from start to finish. Now, let's just quickly cover a few final checks to make sure your projects go smoothly and really hammer home why this skill is so valuable.
So I want to give you a few pro tips because these are the little things that can trip people up. First, always make sure your interface, your form, and your program are all activated. It's such a simple mistake, but it'll stop you in your tracks. Second, double check those data bindings. A mismatch is probably the #1 reason you'll see blank fields on your form. And lastly, make sure the user running the program has the right permissions.
And here's the thing you really need to remember. This process we just walked through, interface, layout, program, this isn't some old academic exercise, no way. This is the exact same flow that's used in real-time modern S/4HANA projects. The skill you're learning about here is 100% relevant to today's most advanced SAP systems. So to bring it all home, when you think about Adobe Forms, just remember these 3 pillars. Your interface is the data contract, your layout is the visual design, and your program is the engine that brings it all together. Once you really master the relationship between these 3, you can build just about any Adobe form you can imagine. Look, at the end of the day, this is more than just theory. It's a real-world, practical skill. You now have the complete blueprint to build powerful, professional documents inside one of the world's most powerful business systems. The only question left is, what are you going to build with it?